Hello, David Starr here for another Mastering the Marketplace video. And when creating your managed application offers in Partner Center, there are some information sections you must fill out to complete the offer information. This video will explore the sections that are specific to managed application offers. For information on filling out information that's common to each offer type, you can find that video in the Partner Center course on our website. Now let's take a look at what we'll cover in this module. In this video, we'll cover the sections in Partner Center that are unique for managed applications. The sections we'll be covering are all here on the screen, and rather than enumerate them here, know that for each section listed, we'll have a demo on how to use it in this video. So let's get started with the demos. We're going to kick off with offer setup. But before we do that, we're going to actually start by creating a new managed application offer for us to work with. To create that new managed application offer, we're going to start off here on the Partner Center homepage, and we're going to click into the Marketplace Offers workspace. Here we have a list of our current offers. I'm going to select New Offer here, and of course we'll scroll down to Azure Application. This is actually a term that refers to two different types of offers, as we'll see in just a moment. Now the first thing we have to do is give it an ID, so we'll call this, let's see, how about that for an ID, and then we'll just reflect that again, O2. Actually, I'm going to jump up and correct that little spelling. All right, let's create this new offer. Great, we're taken immediately to our offer setup page. The first thing I'd like to point out is that if you happen to be working with support or someone else helping you at Microsoft with your offer, you'll often need your offer ID, and you can find that right here on the offer setup page. Now, the alias is the title that we just gave to our offer, but it's important to realize that the alias is only the name that the offer will appear with within Partner Center. So you can have an alias for your offer that's different than the actual name of your offer. Next, let's move down to test drives. Now, if you want to enable a test drive, what this enables is for your customers to temporarily try your product. There is a great deal of technical configuration and setup that needs to occur when you enable a test drive, and the topic is really large enough to be one in and of itself. So with that in mind, I would suggest if you're interested in a test drive to come out here and go to the official Microsoft documentation under Learn More. Next, we're going to check out customer leads. Now, if you would like to be notified when a potential customer looks at your product, or perhaps they run a test drive, or when they interact with it, then what we can do is select the Connect option here to set up integration between your customer relationship management system and Marketplace. So I'll select Connect, and this is optional, showing that you can select none here at the top, but you can also select these other destinations for your leads to be stored. One of which is Azure Table. This is if I create a data storage account inside Azure itself. I just put in the connection string for this. The next thing we'll look at is HTTPS endpoint. So if you want to just simply expose an endpoint on the internet that you'll get posted information to, and you can then take that information, that lead, and do whatever you like with it, then use the HTTPS endpoint option. Next, let's look at using actual CRMs. So we do support Dynamics 365 for customer engagement, should you be running this particular CRM. We also support Marketo and Salesforce out of the box. If I want to, for example, use Salesforce, I just put in my organization ID assigned by Salesforce, and we'll start dropping those leads into your Salesforce instance. I don't need to set up our CRM, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as is. If you do change anything on the offer setup page, you'll want to select Save Draft and make sure that it's successfully saved. Great, now we're going to look at our properties section of our offer. Let's jump back over into Partner Center and see what that looks like. In Partner Center, we'll come down to Properties. And here are some things that we will fill out that determine, in large part, how our offer works in the marketplace and appears. Let's check out categories first. Now, the first thing to note is that there are many categories here to choose from, and depending on which you choose from, you're either targeting the Azure Marketplace or another storefront called AppSource. Now, it turns out that I can't actually publish Azure Managed Applications to AppSource at this time, but the options for the categorization that sends our offer there are in fact included. So how do I know which category to pick so that my offer is targeted in the Azure Marketplace? Well, to do that, you can come up to this help link, learn more, and it will take you to a page that will delineate the different categories and what they mean and which one targets the Azure Marketplace versus AppSource. So I'm going to select Developer Tools, Developer Service. I happen to know that that one will be targeted to the Azure Marketplace, and that's what we want here. Now I can select another category should I choose to do so, but I'm going to let it go with just one category in our case. Now this is a program that is currently in place that you likely are not part of, and that's perfectly okay. This is for use only if you're working with a Microsoft engineering team and looking at helping with our customer Azure portal experience. There's really no reason for 99% of people making managed application offers to select this option. So we're going to leave it as default Azure application. The next thing we'll take a look at are the legal terms and conditions. Now, the first thing I might do here is use the standard contract that Microsoft uses with their customers. So I'll just, if I want to do that, select use the standard contract. It'll ask me to accept. And I'm then able to use the contract as it is as part of my offer, the terms and conditions, basically. Alternatively, I can put additional information into this text box that is augmenting the standard contract for the Microsoft Commercial Marketplace. So we can augment that initial standard contract by putting additional language here. Now let's jump back to the scenario where I'm not going to use Microsoft's Commercial Marketplace contract. I'm going to use my own. There are two ways I can do this. One is to provide my custom terms and conditions right here in this text box. Alternatively, I can select private terms and conditions link. If I do that, I'm going to need to publish a page, probably off of my website, that lists the terms and conditions for my product. Well, for our purposes today, I'm going to jump back over to the standard contract for Microsoft, and with it we're going to look down here at another piece of functionality, custom amendments. Now we can have a universal amendment here, but if we want to add custom amendments, it turns out that we can put an amendment of the standard contract into this text box and target it to a specific customer. Now the way we do that is by asking our customer for their tenant ID and entering it here. I can add up to 10 customers that are going to share this same custom amendment. I can also add more than one custom amendment targeting different customer sets for each. So I'm going to delete these. I don't need them for our purposes. I'm not going to amend our base contract at all, and I'll hit Save Draft. Under Preview Audience, we get an opportunity to select who will have access to test our offer before it goes live. Let's take a look at that screen. We'll jump down to Preview Audience in Partner Center. And here I'm able to enter in the Azure subscription ID that will have access to purchase and test the managed application while it's in its test stage or preview stage. I need simply to enter in the GUID of a valid subscription. Now this one's not a valid subscription GUID, but nevertheless illustrates the point. You can then put a description in there. Let's say it's, my Visual Studio subscription. However, it's important to keep in mind that multiple people can share the same subscription, so you're not limited to just one individual. It's anyone who is included on the subscriptions that you add. And you can, of course, add more, and you can even import an audience of up to 100 using a CSV file. And I'll take this away. And finally, if I did have this filled out, I would simply hit Save Draft and move on. We'll leave this empty for the purposes of our demo. Next, we're going to look at the technical configuration section in Partner Center. We'll jump down to Tech Config. And this is a very simple page, but it has complex implications. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, there's a feature of Marketplace and of managed applications called metered billing. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what metered billing is in a moment, but for now know that it is the ability to charge for usage of your product. So for example, if your product is sending SMS messages, you might want to charge a penny for each one it sends. Well, this is a mechanism that allows you to do that. And there are two architectures that are available to you for reporting those usage events to the marketplace. This technical configuration is one. If you choose, you may fill out this technical configuration with the tenant ID and the application ID that you create in Entra for an application that will receive the events, the usage events, and then forward those on to the marketplace. Perhaps you want to buffer those calls for some reason or something to that effect. This section is absolutely optional and in fact is very rarely used. There, as I mentioned, is another architecture for sending these usage events, and we'll take a look at that under Plan Overview in just a moment. Now, Plan Overview is the section in which you create the plans that represent different versions of your solution. Now, consider a model where you might have silver, gold, and platinum versions of your product. You'll want a plan for each of those versions, and those plans will likely have different descriptions and price points and things like this. Let's jump into Partner Center and see how this works. So down under Plan Overview is where we create our one or more plans. We have to have one or more, obviously, as part of our offer. So I'm going to create a new plan, and just like we did with the offer overall, we're able to give it a ID and a name. In this case, we'll just go silver, as we discussed silver, gold, platinum types of plans, and we'll create that plan. Now here's where we get to an interesting component of setting up our offer. Now, it turns out that under type of plan, I get to choose, is this a managed application or a solution template offer? If it's a managed application, it means that it's transactable within the marketplace. A solution template is sort of a bring your own license type model and is not transactable in the marketplace. And what this essentially means is that if you choose managed application, which we will do here, then Microsoft is going to bill your customer on your behalf, and you will be eligible for go-to-market benefits like co-sell and MAC decrement. In essence, anytime you're creating a managed application plan, you want to choose managed application as your plan type. Another note about this is that all of your plans must share the same plan type across your offer. Now finally, on this screen, we get down to Azure Regions, and we get to configure the regions where we would like to target our offer, and Azure Global is just the standard marketplace. Alternatively, you might be selling into the Azure Government Marketplace, in which case you can select this checkbox as well. Now, we're not going to select this for our demo purposes, but I will hit Save Draft so that we capture that Managed Application Plan type. Next, under our plan, we go to Plan Listing. Now, just like with our overall offer, we have to provide some information that's going to show up on the offer for this specific plan when people are viewing our offer in the marketplace. And so here we would put a summary that might come back from search or something to that effect when someone is glancing at our plan as part of our offer. Next, under plan description, we can be a bit more verbose. And I'm just going to paste in some text here as a placeholder. And you would actually use this section to describe the plan in greater detail. I'll hit Save Draft and we'll move to availability. All right, moving down to the availability section of our plan, we're going to choose first which markets we would like our plan to be sold in. I'm going to select just the United States for the purposes of our demo, but you can select up to 141 different markets that you might want to sell into, as you can see here. Next, we look at pricing. Pricing is per month, and we can choose the monthly price of anywhere from 0 and up for our monthly charge to our customer. Pretty straightforward on monthly pricing. Now, the next thing we'll talk about are custom meter dimensions. And we mentioned this earlier under technical configuration for the offer, but here we're going to define what dimensions the usage events may be reported against. So I use the sample of sending SMS messages. So we might enter an ID of SMS, a display name of SMS message. This will appear on the offer so people can see what the dimension is they'll be charged for and what the unit of measure is. And so this would be per SMS. I could put in 1 penny for each SMS message that gets sent, and I can even include a certain quantity, let's say 100 of them, with our monthly base fee. Alternatively, I can even select unlimited, in which case there's no charge and no specific quantity that we're limited to. I'm going to go ahead and remove that dimension because we don't really need it to save our plan. Next, we'll take a look at pricing data. Pricing data lets you set specific prices for the different markets in which you would like to sell. There is a video in the Partner Center course on our website that talks through this process exclusively and is probably worth your time if you're interested in tailoring your pricing per market that you're selling in. Basically, you can export a pricing data CSV file. You change the values in that file to be the price you'd like to see in the different markets you're supporting, and then import that pricing data back up to Partner Center. Now finally, we're going to take a look at plan visibility. Plan visibility may be either public or private. If public, then anyone browsing the marketplace will be able to see our plan. This is the standard way to show a plan in the Azure Marketplace. Alternatively, it can be private. Private means that it will not be discoverable by people simply browsing the marketplace. What we can do, however, is put in the subscription ID of the customer that would be buying our product, and only they will be able to see it. So I can put the GUID here of their subscription after they give it to me. I can also add additional ones for additional customers who might share the same custom price point and plan description. So if you think about it, this is really for giving our customers a specific negotiated price. We can give it a custom description and so on, because the plan will only be visible to them. I can add more Azure subscription IDs or customers by importing via a CSV file. Here I'm going to go back to public and I'll save draft. Now we'll move into our technical configuration, the last section of setting up our plan. This one is going to be used primarily by your development staff and not necessarily the person setting up the rest of the offer and plan in Partner Center. So what can we do on this page? Well, there is a technical configuration option that we can reuse the technical configuration from another plan. So had we defined another plan already, let's say our gold plan, I would be able to say, let's reuse the technical configuration from that plan in this one. Now, truth be told, we don't recommend doing this all the time because you can kind of create a dependency graph here, and what we'd rather see is the individual artifacts needed to create a managed application uploaded to each plan. Now, that gets down to this package section. In the package details section, what we're setting up is the zip file of artifacts that have been created that define the managed application. Now, there's a whole managed application course on our Mastering the Marketplace website that will take developers through creating the package and everything that's necessary to deploy your managed application. Well, that package will go here, and we're going to start by giving it a version that must appear in the format of integer.integer.integer. Each time you update your technical configuration package, you should update the version that goes along with that package. This will be seen on the offer itself. Now we can come down here and browse or drop our zip file, which is our deployment package, into this section of the technical configuration. There are some checks that are going to be made of the contents of your zip file when you upload it here, but most of the checks will occur during an automated check process that occurs after you publish. Let's come down to deployment mode. Now, deployment mode is interesting in that if we select complete, then we will not be able to modify the contents of a managed resource group after the managed application is deployed. Now, if you're not familiar with what that means, we have a whole module on this in our Managed Applications course inside Mastering the Marketplace. Next, we can choose incremental, which will allow changes to the contents of a managed resource group after its initial deployment. Next, we have the notification endpoint URL, which is completely optional. What this is you can expose an HTTPS endpoint on the internet that will be called during the different events that occur during a managed application deployment. So you'll get things like the deployment has started, the deployment has potentially failed, the deployment has succeeded, things like this, which will help you keep state should you want to do so for the managed application deployment. Managed applications deploy a special resource group into the customer's tenant called a Managed Resource Group, or MRG. Now, with this MRG, there are multiple ways that different actors can manage the things that are deployed into the MRG. Let's say there's a database and you want to make a change to the configuration of that database. Well, I can do that as a publisher or as a customer, depending on the settings we're going to look at now. So I can, as a publisher, give myself access to the MRG and the resources within it by selecting Enable Management Access. Now, if I do this, I have some options down here to include this first one, Just-in-Time Access. Now, should I select JIT, then the customer can designate a specific time and time window within which I can come in and do maintenance on that MRG resource set. I'm going to leave this off as most offers do. The next part of the publisher management component is that we enter in the tenant ID, which has within it the users or groups or other actors that are going to be able to operate on that MRG. So this in the case of a publisher is probably the publisher's tenant ID, or it might be a third-party contractor that I work with as a publisher to maintain my customer installations. In any case, the tenant ID goes here, and then principal IDs from within that tenant are placed in the principal ID section here. And again, this is likely or hopefully a group maybe of people or any other type of principal ID that you might imagine. And here we get to select which role the principal is going to have within that MRG so that they can make changes, either owner or contributor. I can add other authorizations, other principal IDs from my tenant ID. Now I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to come back up top here and select Disable Management Access. Now when I do that, the publisher has no access to the deployed MRG, and all of those other options go away for us. For our purposes, I'll just leave this as disabled. Next, we have customer access. Customers may be able to access the resources in the MRG or not, depending on the settings that we choose here. So by default, we're restricting access with deny assignments such that customers may not go in and modify things within our managed resource group. So let's say that you have a virtual machine running in that MRG, then by default in this configuration a customer cannot go in and stop or start that VM. However, if we enable full access for the customer, then they may in fact do that. They may go in and modify those resources. Now, a combination that I can have, we've sort of been through 3 combinations, here's a 4th, where both publisher, I can fill this out, and customer have access to the MRG. So that gives us a set of options there for how to access and maintain the resources that are deployed with the managed application. Under policy settings, we can specify specific policies that are going to be applied when deploying a managed application. We're not going to delve too deep into this because it is a bit more complex of a topic, best left to your technologists who are working in the technical configuration. Simply consider that you might want to jump in with the Azure policies reading here to best understand what you might want to do with policy settings. I'm going to remove this one and go ahead and save draft on our technical configuration. Now we walked through all of these sections for managed application, configuration, and partner center. Now as you can tell, the plan overview section that we visited last is the most complex component of this. The other pieces offer setup, properties, preview audience, and technical configuration are pretty straightforward. Remember too that the technical configuration that applies to the entire offer is only going to be used in a special architecture that you might choose for sending metered usage events. Thank you for joining us for another video from Mastering the Marketplace, the learning library where technologists go to get their offer on the Microsoft Marketplace. For more videos, hands-on labs, and sample code, find us at aka.ms/masteringthemarketplace.